Concentrated attention also enlarges our ability to perceive things while tuning out noise. Daniel Goleman, who's the author of Emotional Intelligence, once carried out some research showing that during meditation, the frontal lobes of our brain speed up but get cut off from the limbic emotional center. What this actually means is that we've got heightened perception, but we don't stop to try to figure out what it all means or how we feel about it. It means your brain is a pure antenna, receiving what's happening at the present moment. Meditation also appears to permanently enhance the brain's reception. We've seen that in a number of studies. Let's say you're exposed to light flashes or repetitive clicks. Ordinarily, you'd get used to the clicks and you'd switch off and stop reacting. But with these studies of meditators, they've found that the brains of the meditators continue to react to the stimuli, which is an indication of their being able to achieve heightened perception of every moment. Besides speeding up, brain waves also synchronize during meditation and healing. Many studies of meditation have shown that during periods of meditation, EEG activity between the four regions of the brain synchronize. But the interesting thing about some of this stuff is that it doesn't have to just be meditation per se. You don't need necessarily a mantra. You find that meditation makes the brain permanently more coherent, but so does prayer. A very interesting study at the University of Pavia in Italy and the John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford showed that saying the rosary had the same effect on the body as reciting a mantra. Both were able to create what the researchers said were striking, powerful, and synchronous increases in heart rhythms when people were reciting a rosary 6 times a minute or a mantra 6 times a minute. So either one had an effect. And I remember seeing this firsthand. My grandmother was an Italian Catholic, and she was very, very religious. And she used to say her rosary every night. And I used to be very interested watching her because I'd see that she'd go into a zone after a while. She'd found her own meditative technique that got her into the zone. And so it doesn't really matter what you use. It can be a mantra, it can be a rosary, it can be a tone, a drum, it can be just counting a breath, but all of those things are going to help make your brain more coherent. This kind of meditative technique, whatever you use, also integrates your left and right hemispheres, which is crucial for using intention. Up until recently, scientists believed that the two sides of the brain work independently. They always used to think of the left side as the accountant, the thing that's responsible for logical, analytical, linear thinking and speech. And the right side they used to refer to as the artist, which would provide spatial orientation and musical and artistic ability and all those things like intuition. But scientists are now realizing that speech and many, many other functions are produced in both sides of the brain, and that the brain works best when it can operate as a totality. During meditation, we know this synchronization increases communication. In fact, one study showed that during meditation, even among beginners, the pathways between the analytical forebrain and the emotional intuitive center are cleared away. So it means that they're operating together in harmony. And what this means is that we're turning into a more sensitive receiver. So these certain types of concentrated focus, like meditation or prayer, enlarge the mechanism by which we receive information and clarify our reception. In other words, we turn into a larger, more sensitive radio. Other studies using MRI scanners show that experienced meditators have actually changed the size of their brains. A researcher called Sarah Lazar did a study of long-term and beginning meditators, And she found that even after several weeks of meditation, certain portions of the brain involved with rapt attention were being activated, and also that the structures of the brain were actually enlarging. Her meditators had actually turned into bigger and better radios. All of this information is really interesting because it shows that we can remodel particular portions of our own brains depending on different types of focus and actually different thoughts. Our thoughts are changing the brain at every moment. So the most important starting point in becoming a good intender is to practice meditating. As you know, with meditation, the crucial element is to stop your brain from thinking, to concentrate on some sort of anchor. And as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't matter what that anchor is. It can be a set of rosary beads, it can be a mantra, it can be a tone or a drum beat, or anything like that. It can be your breath. But the important thing is to just start and focus on that anchor. Even if it is your breath, breathing slowly and rhythmically in through the nose and out through the mouth, and just keeping your focus on the breath. If you haven't done this before, you can start for 3 minutes and keep observing your breath, working up to 5 or 10 minutes. It's important to practice this repeatedly as it'll form the basis of your meditative practices. But for our purposes, what's even more important is to pay attention to your 5 senses and later to report about them. This will help you to become hyper-focused and alert. What does the room smell like? What does it taste like? What can you feel as it goes down your throat? What can you feel in your fingers about the room? Just becoming hyper-aware. Take a few moments and just try an exercise. Just becoming aware of your surroundings and what's going on in the room. What are the sounds that you hear? Practice this simple exercise a few times a day and it will help you become hyper-focused.